Now the bricks making up this crud are cholesterol. More than one patient has asked me if cholesterol is bad, how can there be a good cholesterol? Actually, the reason is a problem with nomenclature. The full term is good cholesterol carriers and bad cholesterol carriers. Cholesterol is cholesterol, and yes, it is bad. The way it works is the difference between good and bad is that the bad cholesterol carriers called LDL, as distinct from the good ones called HDL. The way I remember it is L is for lousy. They have different molecular shapes, and consequently the bad cholesterol is sort of try to imagine these carriers as boats in your bloodstream, and they're square boats and round boats. Now the square boats, the bad ones, not only can bind to each other, but they can bind to the shore of the blood vessel and ultimately cause an obstruction. Whereas the good cholesterol carriers, the cargo on them, also cholesterol, they're round and don't stick to each other as well, nor to the shore of the vascular system, and just simply carry the problematic cholesterol downstream and don't favor obstruction. Now, if you exclusively imagine the source of cholesterol as dietary, it doesn't explain why some vegetarians have clogged arteries. The reason is that your body actually makes cholesterol to some degree from your liver, which is genetically determined. And so it's really, as corny as it sounds, both environment and heritage. Now, if you wander around a coronary care unit, the place they stick people with heart attacks in a hospital, you don't see many women. The reason for that is that women have more estrogen than men, and estrogen promotes HDL, and this is what protects them. It's not a completely desperate situation for men. There is something they can do, which ain't estrogen, but rather exercise. And that's why if your cholesterol is high, particularly if you're male, exercise is advocated, because that also improves your HDL, your healthy cholesterol. Now, there's other strategies to improve one's cholesterol for either gender. You might wonder, why was it that your grandmother might have advocated drinking a bit of wine for your health? Namely, the way wine benefits your cardiovascular health is by inducing HDL, the good cholesterol. The unfortunate thing is that even more alcohol will instead start raising the LDL, which is why when someone drinks a lot, a physician might say, listen, you need to drink less to benefit your cholesterol. The American Heart Association specifies red wine, and where that comes from is that the skin of a grape, in a red grape, has a second substance that, much like the pulp, also benefits your cholesterol. So if you're 50-50 on which wine to drink, go with red. Incidentally, white wine can be made from red grapes if you remove the skins, but in doing so you'll remove the benefit from the skin. There's other foods that are alleged to benefit your cholesterol, and that's garlic and olive oil. No doubt the Mediterranean diet is deemed heart healthy. Speaking of garlic, not that long ago, in the 18th century in Siberia, garlic was used as currency to pay taxes. Now, the arteries that go up your neck to your head are called the carotid arteries. And the word carotid is derived from the Greek karoun, which means to put to sleep. And where that comes from is in ancient Greece, kids would run up to a goat and occlude both the arteries in their neck and knock the goat out for fun. Speaking of goats, we all know the expression getting someone's goat, getting someone worked up. But where that comes from is if you ever worked on a farm, you would know that horses are herd animals. They travel in packs, and when you put them in the barn at night, they're basically sleeping alone, and they don't like it. They get lonely. So the farm guide arranges for what they call a companion animal, which is to try to keep the horse company. Well, this animal needs to be big enough that the horse doesn't step on it like a chicken, but not so big. The ideal would be a second horse. There's just not enough space in the stall, and so they use goats. And years ago, horse racing, before the automotive industry and car races and such, was a major sport. And so what would happen at night before a big race, the opponent would sneak into someone's barn and steal the goat. And consequently, in the morning, the racehorse would be completely rattled, a bad night's sleep, and wouldn't run as well and lose the race. And so that's the basis of getting someone's goat in association with getting someone rattled. Really, it's horse. A similar maneuver is from the TV series Star Trek, where Spock would do the Vulcan death grip and grab one carotid artery and occlude it. But the pathology, the physiology behind how that works is a bit different. In each carotid artery, both left and right, there's a nerve pathway that goes from your neck to your heart, and if stimulated, will both slow your heart and lower your blood pressure and consequently knock you out. But it's a different maneuver that Spock is known for, and that is his greeting, where he holds his hand up like this. Where this came from is a lot of people don't know that the actor that played Spock was Jewish. Where this came from is at the end of a sermon, the rabbi would hold his hand up in the same way to symbolize the letter S for Shin, the first letter in the word Shaddai, which is Hebrew for Almighty God. Back to your circulatory system, blood pressure is very much misunderstood. People think that if their blood pressure is checked on a given day and it's high, that their blood pressure is high and they have hypertension. Hypertension is sustained high blood pressure. Your blood pressure goes up all the time. If you get worked up, it goes up. If you stand up, it goes up briefly. Only when your blood pressure is never normal is that a disease, is that hypertension. The best way to think of a given blood pressure measurement is like a weather reading. You know that in Alaska there's a given day in the summer where it might actually be warm, but if you were to check the weather temperature every day throughout the year, you would instead conclude that Alaska is a cold place. In this day and age, with the changes in insurance companies and prescription plans and which medicines are covered and which aren't covered, it's not rare for a physician in the interest to try to save a patient money and change their blood pressure medicine to something that's covered on their plan to change the blood pressure medicine. And sometimes the patient gets rattled by this. But the way I comfort people is I tell them, look, what kind of milk do you drink? And they typically say 2% milk. They name the strength of the milk. Uh, and I'll ask them, well, what brand exactly? Jersey Farm, dairy, something or other. And they say they don't particularly care. So it gets them to realize that it's not so much the manufacture of their blood pressure medicine, but rather that it's of inadequate strength. Then there's the fact that sometimes when you change the brand, the number of milligrams changes, as if perhaps something that was 40 milligrams ends up something that's 10 milligrams, as if it's going to be weaker and it's not going to work. And the way to comfort a person for that is to explain the concept of equivalence, because some brands are stronger, and so it takes less milligrams to be equivalent to their prior blood pressure medication. And the way to accomplish this is to talk about currency. That in Canada you might have been taking $2 worth of so-and-so, but in the United States the equivalent amount of currency that has the same punch is only $1.